hear me? I'm being listened to. You know that not so long ago there was a great scandal here in Germany with some other countries were listening to the phone conversations of our dear Chancellor here. And this reminded me of the story of my teacher, the Chief Rabbi of Israel, Rabbi Shapira, blessed memory. 20 years ago, they found listening devices in his office in Jerusalem. And he was quoted by Newsweek saying, "I'm happy that at least somebody is listening to us." Dear Secretary General, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Kvod Rabbanim, Chief Rabbi Emeritus, Kvod Rabbanim Harashiyim, Dayanim, colleagues, Jewish leaders. First of all, let me thank the Board of Patrons for organizing this evening, you, Mr. Chairman Boris, Joel. We're very happy to have with us tonight our dear old friend, Alexander Mashkevitz, who was with us also in Paris, Gabriel, Jan, Michael, Dr. Schuster, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, not all the messages and greetings we have received were shown on video and were read to you. We received greetings from the Russian Senate, from the Vatican, and from the Helsinki Commission. 75 years ago, a great European nation and a great European culture decided that there is no place anymore for houses of worship of a minority of faith. Over 1,000 synagogues throughout the Reich were set alight and destroyed. Torah scrolls were desecrated. Rabbis were beaten and killed in the streets of this city. And 30,000 Jews were sent to concentration camps. Jews were declared as Untermenschen, subhumans. And this was the beginning of the end for us Jews, the beginning of the Holocaust. The war ended, the camps were liberated, and some of the survivors decided that maybe we should stay in Europe. Maybe there's still a future for Jews in Europe. Some even went a step further and decided that there might be even a future, a new beginning for Jews in this country, which declared total war against the Jewish people here in Germany. Slowly, slowly, survivors recreated the destroyed communities, built the synagogues, recreated their families, had children again, and believed that there is a future for the Jewish people here in Europe. For many decades, anti-Semitism in Western Europe was banned as politically incorrect and not salonfähig. And if it surfaced in a camouflaged version, such as anti-Zionism. However, during the last few years, we witnessed Europe's renewed attack on Jewish ritual, especially against circumcision, Brit Milah, and Shechita, kosher slaughter. And I would like to speak about this tonight openly, without euphemism and without camouflaged words. What started those attacks is in part Europeans' reaction to the huge influx of Muslims into Europe. In the past 4 decades or so, as the European birth rate plummeted, Immigration from Muslim countries reached unprecedented heights. Today in France, there are more Muslims going to Mosque on Fridays than Christians going to church on Sundays. 1/4 of the children in the Netherlands school system is Muslim, and many Europeans have taken a strong disliking of Islam. A Tilburg Institute Montaigne poll released in April found that all religions in France are regarded positively by 73% of Frenchmen, except of Islam, which is regarded negatively by fully 70% of Frenchmen. According to an Ipsos Le Monde poll, 74% find Islam intolerant, and 80% believe it is forcing its ways on French society at large. A parallel poll conducted in Germany last year yielded similar results, with 70% associating Islam with fanaticism and radicalism, 64% calling it prone to violence, and 60% citing its penchant for revenge and retaliation. What is more important, 53% of Germans foresee a battle between Islam and Christianity. They are wrong. It is not a battle between Islam and Christianity, but between Islam and an intolerant, anti-religious Europe. But while Islam might be the primary target of the latest xenophobic European campaigns against circumcisions and ritual slaughter, European Jewry is, as so well put by Matthew Wagner, the collateral damage in this anti-Muslim offensive. The most glaring example of this was when Marine Le Pen, leader of the National Front Party, who won 18% of the vote in the 2012 elections, endorsed a ban on religious headwear, including kippot, in public. The attacks against Jewish ritual has been increasing, culminating now in the recommendation of the Council of Europe's Parliamentary Assembly resolution to recommend the banning of male circumcision altogether. Even though the decisions of Passé have only an advisory character, there is no question that this declaration has been a direct attack against the Jewish faith and against the Jewish people. I am sure that the initiators of this resolution were aware of cause, while other lawmakers might not have been fully cognizant of the ramifications. But if their recommendation were to be made a binding law throughout Europe, and circumcision were to be permitted only on a child old enough to be consulted, 14 years old, according to the author of the recommendation, the majority of approximately 1.7 million Jews living in Eastern and Western Europe will be made to feel intensely unwelcome. Muslims were circumcised at a later age as a sign that marks the transition from childhood to adulthood would find it easier to live with such a law. This resolution actually is reminiscent of the infamous Soviet law criminalizing the teaching of religious texts to minors under the age of 16. I guess history tends to repeat itself, however in ways we did not anticipate. Professor Robert Wistrich, head of Hebrew University's Vidal Sassoon's International Center for the Study of Anti-Semitism, writes that the latest attacks in Europe against the ritual aspects of Judaism, such as circumcision and shechita, are seen by the Jewish communities of Europe as more dangerous to organized Jewish communal life than other forms of anti-Semitism, such as anti-Zionism. So in summary, we can state that with almost certainty that this new attack against the religious freedom of minority religious beliefs in Europe is an unholy trinity of intolerance to religious minorities mixed with intellectual anti-Semitism and Islamophobia used by both the extreme right and extreme left. In some countries, these attacks against Jewish ritual, demonizing and delegitimizing Jewish traditions, comes in tandem with the efforts to demonize and delegitimize the Jewish state, the State of Israel. And no one should tell me that there is no anti-Semitism involved. Chancellor Merkel, at the acceptance speech of the Lord Jacobowitz Prize at the Conference of European Rabbis, in May in Brussels this year, said it openly that during the circumcision debate there was much racism and anti-Semitism to be heard. We all know also that one of the first anti-Semitic laws passed by the Third Reich in 1933 was the law against kosher slaughter. I would like to go one step further and say to you tonight that the new campaign against Jewish ritual in Europe is in fact the new phase of political correct anti-Semitism. And to prove my point, let me quote the Bundestag Parliament member Marlene Ruprecht, who introduced the legislation in the Council of Europe that circumcision is the dark side of the Jews and Muslims on religion, traditions, and finally identity. So much for her impartial objectivity. I would not be overdramatic. I would describe the situation of Jews in Europe today as the one where two trains with ever greater speed are racing towards each other. And we, the Jews, are the one man standing on the rails, not knowing which train is going to hit us first. On one hand, our synagogues and youth are being attacked by immigrants from the Middle East and North Africa, especially in many Western European countries. A quarter of respondents in the survey of Jews from 9 European countries said they avoid visiting places and wearing symbols that identify them as Jews for fear of anti-Semitism. In France, 40% of approximately 1,200 Jews said they avoided wearing such items in public, followed by Belgium with 36%, according to preliminary results of the survey. In total, 22% of respondents said they avoided Jewish events or sites because of safety concerns. 2 years ago in Toulouse, a murderer incited by the hate propaganda against Jews attacked a school and killed parents. I know that some will say that this new drive against religious freedom, as Chief Rabbi Lord Sachs said not long ago, is a result of the failed experiment with multiculturalism, because everyone behaved like they came lodging into a hotel which belonged to no one, and nobody cared about Europe itself. I agree that this type of multiculturalism has failed. I agree that everyone in Europe has to be a European as well, carrying a double identity as the carrier of a person's own culture, language, and religion, while sharing the core values, moral codes, and responsibilities of a European, building our home here together. There are those who are against circumcision because it is a medical procedure without apparent medical benefit. An assumption which is strongly contested by a wide part of the medical community. But let us even assume that they are right. Is circumcision really the only procedure which liberal secularists should care about? How about cosmetic surgery? Is it really for medical purposes? Or is it because our Western culture decided that a certain look is beautiful and another face looks awful, the children are being put under the knife of the surgeon? How about parents piercing the earlobes of their daughters? Is this also done for medical reasons? Maybe the state should intervene and not allow parents to take their children skiing, since a certain percentage of the children will be hurt by injuries ranging from broken bones to fractured skulls. Modern liberal democracies have decided long ago that it is not the task of the government to come into the bedroom of their citizens. There used to be also an understanding in our societies that parents have the right to educate their children in the spirit of their religious beliefs, and that government should not interfere with the educational process of the parents unless the welfare of the future of the child is at stake. Ladies and gentlemen, during the last century, Europe knew two wars which decimated, destroyed, and finally divided Europe for almost half a century. I would like to stop these moving trains before it is too late. And as the representative of one of the oldest European minority faiths on this continent, reach out to the diverse Christian communities, the diverse Muslim communities, the secular groups, governments, and parliamentarians to help us stop this brewing antagonism and conflict, which might be the greatest danger for the unity and safety of Europe for the years to come. I believe that we have the responsibility to recreate an atmosphere of tolerance and mutual respect between the secular modern state and the religious movements in order to make sure that the experiment which is called Europe is not going to fail. I would like to take this opportunity and thank our Rabbanim, our rabbis, you, the 200 communal rabbis here who represent over 700 communal rabbis of Europe, for your dedication and common work for the interests of our community and continent. As it is written in our Torah portion, Yaakov was dependent on his shlichim and his emissaries to come across and reach out to his brother in order to keep the peace in the family and in the community. It is thanks to your respective positions in your countries as spokespeople for the Jewish faith and the Jewish people that we have been able to build bridges with governments, European institutions, and other faith communities. My dear colleagues and friends, the question, if there will be Jews in Europe in 20 years from now or not, is also mainly dependent on you, the people sitting here tonight. We, as a small minority, are again in the eye of the brewing storm in the middle of the clash of civilizations in Europe. We are the world's biggest experts of how to survive and thrive as a minority in a different society and culture, and we extend our arms to all Europeans in order to reset the equilibrium between all different parts of our civil society. I would like to remind my colleagues that we are dealing with a European-wide phenomenon, and nobody should even entertain the notion that he can deal with that problem on the local level. Dear colleagues, I cannot refrain from quoting Benjamin Franklin, who said so poignantly, we must indeed all hang together, or assuredly we shall all hang separately. My dear colleagues from all over Europe, we are the people standing on the tracks and looking at both trains coming and moving towards each other at ever greater speed. It is our mission to let our voice heard in our communities and our cities, that God has created every man and woman in his image. Every man has his own distinct and different image, which makes him different from all other human beings. There is no hope for humanity if we do not tolerate each other and if we do not respect each other's differences. We, for thousands of years, fought for the right to think differently and to eat differently, to rest on a different day, and to speak a different language. It is the message which you should bring to all Europeans. Ladies and gentlemen, Europe is not going to be saved by European countries and European institutions adapting Middle Eastern practices of intolerance towards minorities, but by introducing Europeans to the values of pluralism and mutual respect, expelling from our midst those voices, whether religious or secular, which call to destroy the common home, not the hotel, which we are trying to build. The voice which calls the faithful in a mosque to bomb planes, and the voice which calls on ending freedom of religion in Europe are both equally dangerous to the future of Europe. Let us stop both trains and tell the people to step out, see each other, and speak to each other, and respect each other. I would like to thank you, Secretary General of the Council of Europe, Your Excellency, Mr. Jagland, for coming here tonight and reassure us that the voice of reason, the voice of diversity, the voice of the foundation of a liberal democratic Europe is not a lost voice on this continent. Dear Secretary General, we would like to thank you that you came to Berlin tonight to reassure us that Judaism is still welcome in Europe and that the European institutions will work with the diverse faith communities to avoid a clash of civilizations. I would like to close my comments with a quote from Chancellor Merkel's speech in the Great Synagogue of Europe. Europe, this is unified diversity. We share common values, beliefs, and our respect for the indivisible dignity of man, our appreciation of democracy and the rule of law, and our love of freedom. Freedom has many facets. This includes the human right to belong to a community of faith and practice that belief. Only a society in which there is also freedom of religion deserves the term liberal democracy. It is an act of self-assurance to always ask us how we meet the criteria of free religious practice. As Europe is in the process of redefining what is Europe and who is a European, I am hoping that there is also a place for us Jews in Europe. Let's remember what happened here when this country decided it will not allow another civilization, another culture, another religion live within its midst. The fire, which started during Kristallnacht, went on and burned down much of Europe, killing more than 80 million people, including our 6 million who died in the Shoah, making it the deadliest war in human history. World War II started Kristallnacht when Nazi Germany started the war